Devils fans all across the world. I am Drew, also known as Drew's Jersey Devils on social media.
And I'm Owen, Kevin Ball enthusiast on social media. And we're getting close here to the start of the season, and we're going to get a little taste of that with the rookie camp out in Buffalo. And we have a game at noon on Friday. So
Against Ottawa. It's going to be very exciting. The Devils have a very abundant prospect pool at the moment, and it's even more exciting because the main squad is looking to be quite effective this year.
Oh, yeah. One of the only teams out there with a, what do you call it?
A good team and a good future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd say, I mean, there's not a whole lot of squads like that right now, but with the Devils, we'll see Hughes, Nemec, Graham Clark, Dawson Mercer's younger brother Riley will be there in net on a tryout deal. There's quite a few solid prospects in the system right now. Any you'd like to touch on?
Obviously Luke and Nemec, and then some underdogs. Xavier Parent has shown some flashes at camp or rookie camp or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And another piece of Devils news: new goalie we're bringing in, Keith Kinkaid. He's played 151 games for the Devils, and I did not see this coming. This came right out of nowhere.
Yeah, I figured we might have seen some sort of goalie news throughout free agency at some point. Was not expecting Kinkaid. I was expecting, if anything, a trade for a kind of an upgrade. This seems more of like a depth signing. It is a two-way deal. I do not expect him to be getting much time with the Devils. He only played 2 games in the NHL last year, one for Boston, one for Colorado. But I think it'll be a nice, because, I mean, Dawes is still out until December, so it'll be nice to have some veteran presence in net for Utica.
Totally. And now we get to the meat and potatoes of the video. Who's going to make our opening iron roster?
Well, I think we can start with our centers because that seems to be the most solidified position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously, you got Jack and Nico at the top. I don't know if you can really place one above the other. I would say, in my opinion, Jack is the more exciting player to watch, but that doesn't mean crap, really. I mean, Nico is the more solidified player. I think at the end of the game, period 3, trying to close out a game if you got the lead, I'd want Nico in that starting role, but if you need a goal, Jack Hughes is the guy.
Oh, for sure. Sulky defense with Nico.
Mm-hmm.
And bottom 6 centers, we got Eric Holla and Michael McLeod. Very underrated duo, I think. Eric Holla, 40-point guy. He could not score in the first half of the season last year, but he picked it up towards the playoffs, and we got Mikey McLeod, who's the best face-off man in the NHL right now, with Jonathan Toews taking a break.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty stacked on center all the way through. There's really no complaints from me. I'm pretty comfortable with the 4 guys that we got, and even injuries are going to happen at some point throughout the year. We did lose Boquist, so that'll be interesting to see who's going to be the guy if changes are needed. Mercer can always slot in as a center as well, and be quite effective too. He could even get top 6 center minutes if needed.
Oh, yeah.
But I think we're pretty stocked on centers at the moment.
We also could play Thomas Nosek and Chris Tierney at center, and potentially Tyce Thompson, so injuries are not too much of a concern for our center depth.
No, none of those guys just mentioned would be too incredibly effective, I don't think, but they're perfect for 4th-line minutes if need be.
For sure.
Then moving on to our wingers, this is the most comfortable I think I felt with New Jersey wingers since the days of Kovalchuk, and I mean, having Meyer and Bratt and Toffoli and
Mercer.
Yeah, this is so exciting. I cannot wait for the season to kick off. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because these guys haven't all played with each other for very long, so there's going to be some adjustment period. I mean, especially Toffoli, he's come in. Meyer didn't start clicking as much as we'd hoped right off the bat, but I mean, that wasn't a huge shock either.
No. I mean, like, a guy like that, like, he spoke out himself that New Jersey system is just different than everyone else's. Like, and he was the guy in San Jose. I think that was a big part of it. He was the one guy that was taking all the shots, but we have like 4 guys on this New Jersey roster.
Yeah,
so.
That will also be interesting to see how everything pans out. Like, is there going to be one clear-cut runaway guy that's leading with the points, or is it going to be pretty spread out? And I think I think we'll see a good mix, spread of points throughout the whole roster, even on the lower lines. Like they're no chumps either. So I think the Devils have. I can't remember exactly where they placed in goals for per game last year, but it was respectable. It was up there, and I know we were quite comfortable with the amount of goals we were bringing in last year. It would be nice to reduce the goals against, but goal scoring isn't necessarily what the Devils needed. They did bring in more of that, so that is nice, and we're going to have an opportunity for Holtz to break through to the roster.
Yeah, throw him on a line with Holland Plot in that bottom six. Put him on a little bit of slower line to get him acclimated to the speed of the NHL because, as we all know, that was what the issue was before.
Yeah, I can't envision him playing with Jack at the moment. It would be awesome to see. I think he could really take off if he could keep up with that level of play and that pace. Oh, man, the world would be his. And with that shot and having set up guys like Jack and Bratt. And, I mean, Nico's, I think, a little underrated in his offensive game as well. He can be quite effective, and having someone like Holtz to just be that just sniper, elite level, I mean, he's going to put some pucks in the back of the net either way. Hopefully it's this year, and he can really start to take off. But even if not, Tom Fitzgerald signed quite a few other guys to fill out the roster and give us a little assurances, because it will be different with guys like Wood and Tatar gone, because those were some good veteran players that had experience. You could rely on them. They weren't going to do anything too flashy or too crazy, but
they would put the puck in the net.
Yeah, and Miles Wood would put himself in the net.
And on this bottom pair of wingers, I'd like to say it's Nolan Foote and Nathan Bastian. I think that's a pretty solidified thing, especially with Nolan Foote. I mean, he's been NHL ready for 2 years.
Bastian for sure is going to be on there. But, Foote, who knows? Is this the year that he breaks into the lineup? I would like to see that. It would be nice to start getting those guys acclimated to the NHL play. If they're going to be part of the future, even if they're going to struggle a little bit at the beginning of the season, I'd rather get them in there. I don't want to see another situation with like Holtz last year where he got a few games and then just simmered on the bench for a few weeks before anything was done. I think it would have been much more effective for him to just get sent right back down to Utica when it was apparent he wasn't going to play for Jersey.
And another thing, just like the centers, we have some guys that could replace the fourth line if injury does come to fruition. With Curtis Lazar, who I think is very good to not make an opening night roster. You could even throw Chris Tierney at winger. Graham Clark, I think Graham Clark's ready, but there's no room. And, we have 3-4 wingers that could jump up and service. They're serviceable.
Oh, yeah. And so I think it's a pretty good consensus that the top of the forward roster is pretty solidified. We don't know exactly where everybody's going to slot, who's going to play with who, but we have options. I mean, whether you've got Jack or Nico playing with the likes of Bratt and Meyer, Toffoli, Mercer, I think you can give me any combination of those three and I'll be happy. And the bottom six, we'll see how that solidifies itself as the season plays out. But I would say I am most comfortable with our center core at the moment.
For sure, yeah.
Or not, forward core. Center for sure, but forward in general.
Great forward group.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on to defense, which I also do have a good bit of confidence in, but a little bit of skepticism, because it will be interesting to see how the departure of Graves and Severson affects the team. We are replacing them with much younger guys, so there will be a little bit of adjustment period probably as they figure out the nuances of the league, and get used to the Devils system.
Yeah, starting off, I'd like to see Dougie and Siegenthaler up like first pairing. Dougie's not gonna shut down the D zone, but having a guy like Siegenthaler to let Dougie off the leash and do whatever he wants on offense is gonna help his production a lot.
They definitely complement each other very well. Kind of have two totally different styles of playing defense, but I think that works well. I wouldn't want to have Luke and Dougie on a line together. I think that would be too much offensive overpower. Like certain times, maybe when you really need a goal, it'd be interesting to see something like that. But they kind of both play a similar role. Like they're the quarterbacking guy. You don't want to have too much of that at the same time because it's just not going to mesh well. You need guys that can feed off of each other and guys that are going to, like Dougie needs a shutdown D guy at times because he's not that guy. And so having Siegenthaler with him there, I think that makes me comfortable.
I think on that second pairing, we have Luke and Marino in what I would think Lindy would do, but he's kind of unpredictable. Luke, I wouldn't say Luke's as bad on defense as Dougie. I'd say he's slightly below average, but Marino's just another shutdown guy. He's just like Siegenthaler, like let Luke off the leash, let him go crazy, get all those points, and then have Marino sit in the shadows and make his plus-minus look good.
Yeah, I'm real excited to see what's going to happen with Luke this year. I mean, I think he's going to get a fair bit of playing time. That's not a concern of mine. I mean, I'm seeing all sorts of predictions of him being in the top handful of Calder picks. I mean, Bedard's obviously going to be the favorite, being first overall, and just with all the hype that's been around him for the last couple of years. But that would be awfully nice to see little Luke Hughes come up and surprise some folks.
I think it'll happen.
I would love to see that happen. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a little biased, so I mean that's what I'd have my money on as well. And plus, I'm sold that Bedard's going to be a hell of a player.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? He might have a little bit of adjustment period like Jack did. So I don't think he will struggle at first. But anyway, who cares about the Hawks? Yeah. We're talking Devils here.
Third pairing. This is probably the biggest toss-up on defense we have, but what I think it would be is Kevin Ball and Colin Miller.
I like that. I'm happy with that. I mean, you also got Brendan Smith as a possibility. I know I would not like that, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Defense, I'm definitely not as sold on as I am with the forwards. Forwards, like I have no adjustments that I would make. The defense, like there's some iffy spots, but I think it could work.
I think it's definitely like my biggest area of skepticism besides the goalie, but that's for a little bit later. And I think Kevin Ball, he's huge. He's starting to get to know the NHL, and he's pretty average everywhere. And then so is Colin Miller, so we can have a little balanced pair, finish out the bottom six, give our top four guys a rest maybe.
And, yeah, I know we probably don't want to see Brendan Smith in that role, but he seems to be on Lindy's good side, so I wouldn't be surprised. And it is nice to have that competition. Guys don't get complacent. They know they got to perform to keep their job. I think that is a very healthy environment for a team. If you had a big drop-off after your sixth guy and your next guy up was some AHLer, guys can get complacent. They know their job's not as at risk, so there's not as much to play for. But if you got guys like Colin Miller and Brendan Smith duking it out, who knows? Maybe that'll make both of them elevate their game. Yeah, and I think it's good for the team.
I think our depth on defense is probably our biggest asset. I mean, obviously Brendan Smith can be is going to be that seventh guy, but like, who knows? Two guys get injured. You got Nemec, like blue chip prospect, and then like if you really want to, you could call up like Villain, but I don't think he's ready yet.
No, not quite. I mean, it's pretty incredible looking at our defensive depth chart just from last year to this year at this time, because we've lost Severson, Graves, Koychuk,
Mukhamadullin.
Yeah, Mukhamadullin. I mean, so like not that Koychuk and Mukhamadullin were NHL guys yet, but they were pretty high up on our defensive depth chart. Yeah, and so we've lost 4 pretty solid defenders, 2 proven NHLers that got good deals for Columbus and Pittsburgh. I mean, like, they're no chumps, and teams wanted them. I think the Devils would have liked to re-sign them if they could have gotten them to more competitive deals, but no way we're re-signing Severson for that kind of money at this time. The timeline doesn't match up. I would have loved to see him end up getting a cup with the Devils. I mean, he's top 20 all-time Devils games played. He's duked it out in the worst of the Devils' years, at least that I experienced. I know there were some dark years in the infancy of the franchise, but those like after 2012 and up until now in 2018, really
literally a decade.
Yeah, and I mean, Severson was one of the few players that I know he frustrated a lot, plenty of fans, but I was still
I was high
overall
on him.
I was a fan of his.
I was high on him.
Mhm.
And now on to our biggest point of concern by a nautical mile. We've got the goalies.
Yeah, I want to be confident in him, but I'm not completely sold yet. Vanacek, I was very happy with his regular season. I think he performed well. It's got to be tough too when you're kind of the guy and you don't know if your backup is very reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie Blackwood did not perform to the best of his abilities last year. I know he's had plenty of issues with injuries and not getting time, so that's got to eat away at a goalie's confidence and make it tough to get back in. But that's also got to make it tough for Vanacek, knowing he's got to perform night in, night out, can't really take a break. It was nice to see Schmid come in there, and he really stole that Ranger series. I don't think they would have gotten it done without him.
No.
But yeah, I'm not over the moon about Devils goaltending at the moment.
I'm not sold. I definitely think Schmid's ready. I don't see what management is thinking about wanting to keep him in the AHL. And the thing about keeping him in the AHL is who's going to be our backup? Keith Kinkaid, Eric Shalgren,
Oh no! If he's in the AHL, Schmid will be over Kinkaid, I would think.
Yeah, they seem like dead set on putting Schmid down, but
Oh, I think they're dead set on putting him in the AHL, but I think it's because they want him to be the starter, get that bulk of the play time, and I do think Vanacek is good enough in the regular season right now that he can hold it down. But I mean, you move Schmid down, who's Vanacek's backup right now?
Shalgren, Kinkaid.
Yeah, no thanks. So
Exactly.
I really don't see how they can have Schmid in the AHL at this point in time.
He's ready. He's 100% ready.
I think it'll still be Vanacek Schmid on the opening night. That would be my guess.
We didn't bring in anyone good enough to.
No, I know there was rumors out there about bringing in Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, that would have been interesting. I'm kind of glad that did not happen, if I'm being honest. It would have been a lot of money to bring on. It would have been awesome for a year or two maybe, but after that, I think it would have been more detrimental to the team, and we are looking to be competitive, not just for the near future, but the next decade even.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Jack for the next 7 years, Nico for another 4.
All our guys are locked up.
Yeah, Meyer, Bratt for another 8, Siegenthaler for a good chunk of time, Marino we got for a while. Really all our key pieces are locked down. Yeah, and I mean Luke Hughes, I would envision that he'd probably want to stick around, play with his brother Jack. I mean, you can't predict the future, you never know, but I'm pretty confident he'll want to stay. Mercer seems to be happy here. I'd hope they can lock him down. He's going to acquire a bit of money in some time, but I'd say overall, this is an exciting time to be a Devils fan.
Probably the most exciting it's been since 012, or not 012, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so the Metro better look out, because I don't think the Devils are messing around anymore. Yeah, they're ready. They're hungry.
We're coming, Carolina.
Oh, yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. Keep an eye out. I think our next video will be doing a fantasy draft of all Devils players, 1v1 league, Owen versus myself. We'll see how that pans out.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.
Shout out Brat Pack, baby.